Hello everyone. Well, this is probably my last art lesson, and so I thought I'd choose something that I particularly like to do, and that's working with pastel. Pastel is a very easy medium to work with. You can layer it, you can add different colours on top of it and change the colour, you can blend it and so on. So I think you'll enjoy having a go at this. We're going to do a still life in pastel, and I'll show you how to make a start with that. I'll show you first of all one or two pictures to show you the kind of thing that you can do. I've got to tilt this a little bit backwards so it doesn't catch the light, hopefully. And this is a picture that my mum did, and she was in her 80s when she started to do painting, and she became really good at pastel landscapes, so much so that she had one of her pictures in a famous magazine, and she won an award at a local show. So it just shows you that at any age you can start doing art and become successful at it. The other picture I'd like to show you, and it's quite heavy, and I'll sort of try and tilt it away from the light, and that is a picture that I did from a photograph that was taken in Cusco in Ecuador. My son-in-law is a very good photographer, and we followed this lady around trying to get the right angle that I wanted for her with flowers. And so I really enjoyed doing that, because you can do very soft tones like on the hat, but very detailed pictures, as you can see in the flowers. So this is what we're going to have a go at today, and I'm going to show you how to start it. So I hope you enjoy it. Right, where to start? Materials. You're going to need a piece of pastel paper or blue sugar paper to do this particular still life. You may want to set up your own still life, but these are the principles involved. You need your pastels, and they can vary greatly in terms of expense. These are a very cheap set of pastels, and they're absolutely perfectly adequate. They're fairly soft, they're from the works, they weren't expensive. The only problem is that there are one or two very bright colours that don't come out as well, so the red isn't as red as you might want it for some things, but certainly in terms of a landscape they're adequate. That's a more expensive set here, a bigger range of colours, but I found it was no softer. The softer the pastel, the better. The more expensive the pastel, the softer they are. But I was a little bit disappointed with those, that they weren't softer. These are collections that I have over the years, all sorts of different combinations. But I do use lots of different makes of pastels because I need a particular colour from a set of pastels. This is a set that I showed you, the picture that my mum did, and they're her old pastels which she used, which I often go to some of the colours. For example, that is a very nice flesh colour that I've often had to use. This set here is an expensive set of Faber-Castell pastels with a very defined edge, which sometimes you find you need if you're trying to make a particular line. And I do use those sometimes. For very fine detail, you need your pastel pencils. But for this kind of still life, you wouldn't need this. It's when I'm doing a particular picture that I find I need those. You need 2 pieces of kitchen roll. One to put your pastels on as you're using them, so that you don't put your pastels on your piece of work when you're working. And the other one is to cover up parts as you're working with your hand across. I'm just noticing these pastels, which were very expensive, but are beautifully soft. And for one particular picture that I was doing, I needed those colours, so I just bought those colours. You tend to use a lot of white. Sometimes if I'm trying to smudge very detailed things, I use a cotton bud. Or even I put the cotton bud under a tissue and work with that. So that's if you're trying to get detail. Where to start? The easiest way, and it's difficult for me to show you this because when I'm drawing, I need to be sitting exactly in front of the still life that I'm going to do. It's good if you can make a window mount here that you can hold out. I can't hold it high or you won't see it, but in actual fact, you would hold it high and put it around where you think you're going to do your still life. So you're not attempting to get the whole thing in, you're just deciding what's going to come in your picture, and then that is what you're going to draw. Where to start on the actual picture? Well, the main thing about still life is that you're learning to look and draw. So I'm hoping that James can keep showing you this still life so that you're looking up at it as I am when I'm trying to draw. Because what you're trying to do is to relate one thing to another. So if we look at this still life now, we're looking at the jug. The jug is the main thing that's going to be in our picture. And we want it to be fairly central. We're going to want some room at the bottom and some room at the top. We're going to have to be able to fit the orange into the left and the lemon in to the right. We've got the tiny strawberry in the front. We're going to have to fit the handle of the jug in, which again you have to think about because it's no good doing your jug so large that you can't get the handle in at that side. All the time we're going to be lining up one thing in relation to another. So how high does the lemon come up the jug in relation to the bottom of the handle? Where does the strawberry come in relation to the top of the lemon and the bottom of the jug? The orange, how much higher up the page is the orange than the lemon? It's definitely farther back, and it's sort of touching, or almost touching the jug. So you're going to have to weigh up all of those things. Right, we'll go back to the drawing. When you're trying to draw a jug, it's often a good idea to draw a central line. I like to draw with a white chalk when I'm doing a pastel, but because of the time factor, I've had to rough out the drawing first. This actually takes quite a long time for me, and you would get fed up watching, I'm sure. So I've put it in very gently, but I'll go over it with the white. Why it's nice to work with the chalk is that you get a nice flow to your wrist, so that when you're doing something, you don't get too finicky, and you get a much greater freedom. So I'm conscious that I'm trying not to get my head into this camera, but we would take a very light central line, and then we know we're working to either side of that to get our jug in. Our eye has to keep going up all the time to what we're drawing, down to the page. So we constantly, every few seconds really, our eyes are going up to what we're drawing and down to the page. So up to the still life and down to the page again. We have to look for the top of the jug in relation to the bottom and what kind of shape that is. And I'm just going to show you on this piece of paper. And I've put the jug purposely high so I can show you about ellipses. If we look at that from a bird's eye view, we get basically a circle. But as we tip it, then the ellipse at the top of the jug, cup rather, will become more flattened. As we tip it even more, it becomes less, and eventually, when we tip it fully, we get it curving very slightly upwards. Now this is important when you're thinking about your eye level. So your eye level, above the eye level, if the top of the jug is going to be curved either almost straight or very slightly upwards. Whereas because the bottom of the jug is below my eye level, it's going to curve downwards. So things which are below the eye level are going to be curved downwards. So that's important when you're thinking about drawing the jug. So because I've set the still life up high to explain that, the top of the jug is very, very slightly curved upwards, almost straight, but curved slightly upwards. So I'm going to put the top of the jug in, and I can draw a bit to each side of that central line, and it's going out very, very slightly. So it's coming down. We've then got to look at the handle. You need to have quite a swing here with your wrist. So we've got the bit where it's connected, and then we come round and we get the handle. In a way, the quicker that you do that, the better. If you worry too much about it, you won't get that flow. That's why I always like to start with the chalk with people, because it stops that worry. People worry a lot when they're drawing. But it frees you up a little bit. So we've got the jug. We now need to see where that lemon is. And we know that the lemon is so far down the top of it, from the bottom of the handle where it's attached to the jug. So we have to have that in our mind. We have to think about how far across does that lemon go, and it's not quite halfway. Look at the shape of it. Everything that's in front of the jug is going to be slightly further down your page. Something which is a bit behind the jug is going to be higher up the page. You want to make sure that when you draw your jug, you've got a space at the bottom, a bit bigger space at the top, and a bit of room either side. You never want to draw the jug, say, right at the bottom of your page. It just wouldn't look right. So I'll draw the lemon. Again, it's a little bit difficult for me because with just using the phone as the camera, I have to try and keep my head out of the way, which is sometimes a problem when I lean forward. So I've got the lemon sort of in here. And then the strawberry is actually touching. Now, because I set this up a bit ago, things have very slightly moved, so you'll have to bear with me with that. So we've got the strawberry here. We've got a bit of the greenery. And then we've got that bit of a stalk there. Then we want to put the orange in. Again, it's very slightly moved because I caught it as I was going past. So we need to put the orange in. Nice round orange. Decide where that the top of the orange is coming. That's quite important when you come to do it. You then need to decide where it's going to lie, and that's important that you get this tabletop straight. If you have one up here and one down here, it puts everything out. So it's about there and about there. Now that looks as if I've drawn that fairly quickly. It took me at least an hour or so to put that, to get that in the right place. With pastel, you can rub out, so if I put a mark there, it will go, not quite entirely, but it will go with the pastel. If you find it's a bit of a disaster what you've done, you can dampen, not wet, dampen a little bit of a scrunched up paper towel, and you can just wipe the pastel off, let it dry, and then go ahead again. Right, the next thing we're going to look at is where the light is hitting the jug, because we're going to start with the jug. You have to really, in a still life, in a pastel, or in any work with a pastel, you try to work from, if you're right-handed, from left to right, and that avoids a lot of the smudging. If you're left-handed, you would work the other way, so you would start with the handle and work that way. I'm going to start with the jug this side and work that. I need to get that in because that's the central thing, but you could have, if you wanted, you could have started with the orange on that side, but I'm going to start with the jug. If we look at the jug, you can see that there is a really strong band of light going right down the middle here. You always need to put your white in first. It's very difficult to get a good effect if you put your white in at the end. You need to look for your white highlights, where your light areas are going to be, and get your white in. So I'm going to take this very soft pastel. I'm not particularly at first concerned to get those bands of white right. I'm just trying to get the idea of making that jug look three-dimensional. But I've got to put the white in. And I've got these bands of white. And I'm looking also to see where the jug is going to be lighter, and I'm going to put, oops, a bit of light here. And I'm looking at the handle, and that's probably a bit thick for that, but I'm going to put the white where I can see it hitting on the handle. And if you look, you can see it's coming round here. So you must get that light in first. Then look and say, well, where are the darker parts coming? And we'll have a go with those next. It's then choosing a colour that's going to be right. And that I would say, no, not quite. It's a little bit not quite right. What's that like? That's nice. So I'm going to put the dark in this side. It's a bit dark again, that side. I need a kind of middle tone here. So I'm going to choose different blues to make the different areas of the jug. So I'm going to start here, and I have to try and go to the outside of the white line that I've done. I don't want the white line showing in particular. And I can use the edge of the charcoal, or the chalk, sorry, the chalk, to make the line. That's why these square ended ones are quite nice. The round soft ones are good, but they don't have this very nice edge. So I'm coming down, trying to keep the top of that. Don't worry about that because things go into the background. And then I've got this dark this side. I don't really know how successful this is going to be because I'm still at a difficult angle, but anyway, just bear with that. It's to give you the idea. I'm going to take that across a bit. So I'm putting all my colour on first. So I'm getting the dark there. I then need to put on some blue, a lighter shade, a medium tone. Because if you remember that when we were talking about trying to make things look round, when we were thinking about drawing, we go dark, medium and light. And in fact, when we're looking at this jug today, we're going dark, medium, light. So we're going like this. So let's look for a blue that will do. I think that might do. You see, actually, that cheap pastel is much better. So annoying, yeah, that you pay a lot and they're a bit disappointing. Go over that white there. can sort things out later on. It might look a bit haphazard at the minute, but then you'll see something happens. I'll have to lean into it. I can't reach the top of it. Right, okay. While we've got those colours, we'll put them on the handle as well. This looks a bit lighter here. You're going to have to keep looking at this handle and seeing what you can see. A bit of a middle tone there, the bottom of that. Darker on the inside here. James thinks he might be able to speed things up, so we'll see what happens. And we'll get that medium tone on the top. It did look as if I'd done that drawing very quickly, but I had to keep looking, drawing, going back again. You know, it's a really good lesson in how to look and draw. So I'm going to need some darker tones here. Let's see that. You can feel how hard these pastels, disappointing pastels, but they look nice in the box. Right, so I've got the inside of that handle darker. Now, watch the magic bit. What you're going to do, you're going to paint with your finger, and you're going to drag the pastel across in a slight curve so that the jug looks curved. So you take your finger and you don't worry about it, and you drag across. So you go down, drag across, down, down. And this is the beautiful bit about pastel that I love. Now I'm going to slightly straighten it because I'm coming to the bottom where it's curved slightly the other way, isn't it? The bottom here. Right, so can you see how that works, doesn't it? That works. We've suddenly got a three-dimensional jug. That's fine. Right, handle. I'll just straighten that edge. Don't worry if you go over the edge. When you go to do the background, you can sort it out a bit. So I'm going to take my finger, hold your paper steady, because you have to push quite hard. And you've come round. And then we can sort this bit out. That's got a bit smudged there. I'll take that into the background. And get the dark. Was that the dark? And redraw that bit. So you can see how you can soon get things right. Okay. So you've got the idea now. You need to go back now and put in some bit sharper white lines here, maybe a stronger white line on the jug and the handle. So I'm going to try and take the edge, and this is from the Conte crayon where I have a very nice sharp edge. So I'm going to come down very fine line there. So you can see how with this different kind of pastel you can get a different kind of effect. Trying to see if that's white. That's a bit. That's it. So we've got these kind of bands of light which are coming from the window, and I can get a sharp effect with the edge here. It's sharper at the top here, isn't it? The white seems very strong there. Okay, so you've got the idea that by putting the pastel on, using an edge sometimes, I'm trying to get a sharp top to that, and it's breaking, that we can get those strong lights. And if we look again, we need to take down, looking for an edge again, a bit of blue in the middle of that. And a bit of blue there. Just take it down gently. Right, so we've sort of got the jug in. And I say I might have spent, a lot longer on that, but I'm just trying to do it as quickly as I can. You need to put the white light back onto the handle of the jug. Again, be careful. As you come round. And I say we can, when you put the background on, it can sometimes just sort out anything that isn't quite right. Right, okay. I think that's gone a bit big. So I'll show you how to take it out. Just get your white, because your white, it's going to go into the background. So that's what I mean about the beauty of pastel. You can just sort of get rid of things, put things in, alter things, and get things right. strange, but the feel of these pastels is very hard when you're doing it. Right, so we've got the jug sorted. And then we're going to think about the lemon. Well, actually, no. Should start with the orange on that side. The thing you've got to learn to do with pastel is to cover up. So if I was to do the orange here and I work across it, then I would smudge the whole of that and it would be ruined. So I have to cover up and just think about the orange here. I'm going to have to wipe my hands, which are very blue, because I'm going to start this orange. Now, the orange, again, we've got to think about the white highlights. And the orange grows from here, and it's coming out in shapes like this. So let's look at the orange. The part at the top, that greeny part where it's attached to the plant, the light comes sort of out from there in bands, and there's a band, definite band in the middle here. So I'm going to put a bit of this nice lemony colour there. The white I'm going to put on. So your lightest colours have to go on first. So I'm trying to get the light in these bands that fan out a bit like the spokes of a wheel. So they fan out like the spokes of a wheel from there. And then we've got this like quite strong band of white here. And then it's going darker towards the bottom. So we've got our light on, so we're okay. So we can put those aside. We've got to think about the orange now. Which oranges shall we have? Let's have a go with this one. So again, you can see that I'm putting all the colours on first. I'm not worrying too much about it, am I? I'm just trying to get the colour. It goes a bit more of a lemony orange there, so I might try a bit of that, a bit lighter. As it touches the jug. Get the outline of it right. From where I am, that is a tiny bit hidden. It might not be where you are, but it touches that. And it's slightly come into that jug. I think it's moved slightly from when I've drawn it. I'm getting the shape of it back in here. Now it's a bit darker down there, isn't it? So again, I've got to choose a colour that I think will be right. Maybe a little bit of a brownier shade here. Or even a bit of that colour. So you have to kind of look and decide what colours you think are going to make the right colour. But that's quite nice. It's quite nice choosing colours. You need some dark coming out in these bit shadowy bits that are coming from the centre where it's attached. So I've put some colours on. Might need a bit more, and I might need a bit darker at the bottom. So I'm looking for a darker brown there. So that's what you can see. I use all sorts of different combinations of pastels because no one box has all the right colours in. Might put a tiny bit of dark up there. So your eye is constantly going to what you're doing and coming back here. And I think it's a bit darker there. So you have to keep looking at it and coming down and drawing, and your eye constantly going backwards and forwards. So now's the nice bit. Okay, I'm going to paint with my finger. Let's get a clean finger, and I've got to drag the pastel out from that central part in the way that it grows. So I'm going to go like that, straight, like that, like that. So I'm going like this, and then at the top like that. So I'm going to drag it out there. So I'm painting with my finger straight here in the middle and drag it out again that side. A bit like magic, isn't it? This. Push that, you have a bit of a job at the top. So we've got the orange. When you've done it, you usually look at it and think, I need a bit more orange on. That's what I always find, because you've dragged a lot of the colours, so you might need to kind of brighten it up here and there. And then we need to put in that little bit there, and it's sort of a greeny colour, a dark green with a lighter green around it. It's a bit like a star kind of thing. And then it has this lighter yellowy thing there. Press your finger on, take it down. A bit darker. Might even take a bit of black there. Don't very often use black because it's such a strong colour. So I'm trying to get that little bit there, and then it has a tiny okay. Maybe a bit stronger orange there. So you keep going back and working at it. I say you could spend many hours doing it, but it's quite therapeutic, really. So we've got our orange. It has a tiny texture to it, doesn't it? So we need to maybe take the corner of something and just don't go mad. Just with the corner, putting a bit of texture. You don't really want to see it spotty. You just want to see that it's got a bit of colour. Okay. You can see how easy it is to get all your pastels on top of your work and make a mess. So you've got to be careful. I need to put that back in. There we go. So we've got the orange. We're going to think about the shadows underneath after, so we needn't do that now. We've got our lemon next, which again we have to look for the light on it, and it's obvious that the light is quite strong here, so you've got to put your light area on first, and it's slightly, just slightly below halfway, and I'm going to put that on quite strong there. It's quite strong here and here. And then we're going to look for different areas that we've got to do now. That is a nice pastel for lighter bits, so that is a lovely soft pastel. You can see that is a beautiful soft pastel, but again it was, I can't remember how much, but it was expensive. And now we want a real lemon yellow. Let's look for our best lemon yellow. Should we try that? Put it on nice and heavy. When you're smudging pastels, you need it on heavy so that it works when you smudge it. I'm going to go around the edge, so I hope my head doesn't come in, but I have to lean over to do it. Can't see that. So I'll apologise now if on some parts of this you see my head, but it's a bit difficult. So I've got the outside shape. There. We need to put some sort of darker tones on, and again, difficult to look for the right colours, but just try different combinations. You can always sort of get rid of them. Like a more of a greeny, funny greeny shade down there. Let's see what I've got. What's that like? So I'm looking for shadows now. I'm looking for shadows that are going to work on this. I'm trying to see where they're going to come. I might do a nice, what's that lemony like? So I'm keeping building up. You can see I'm putting lots of colours on straight away before I think about rubbing it all in. I'm trying to get the tones on it before I kind of work it. And you've got to think about looking for shadows. I think that needed to be a little bit stronger there, and under there, sort of round there. Okay, we want to keep the lemony crisp colour. That the difficulty with this is when you put the shadows on, that you end up with your lemon losing its nice crisp brightness. But you can see that you've got the colours on. So we want this to kind of come like that. So it's going to come out to us and back. So when we smudge it now, the bulk of it we're going to try and do this way. Yeah. So I'm taking it round. And up again. So I was trying to take it so that I'm coming down with my finger that way and up with my finger that way. And then I need to go back and maybe put a bit more lemon on. There. And then sort out this end part. Whoops. You can see when you put a mark on and then you smudge it, you just, yeah, you don't know quite what's going to happen, and it's very nice. That's what I find, that it's sometimes a bit of a surprise what happens when you're doing it. Don't worry about that, because I can take that out with the background. Let's say I've got I could keep working at this for many hours, but I'm conscious that I can't do that. But if for example, when I was doing the flower cellar, that took me many hours, yeah, but enjoyable, right? So we've got our lemon. Just haven't got that quite right. Just trying to get that back, like, yeah, that's better. Right, okay, we'll call it a day with the lemon. Again, the lemon has a slight texture to it. You've got to be careful here as well that it doesn't end up spotty, but you need to give it a slight bit of a texture. So don't do it all over, just little bits. And it just gives you the idea that it has this little bit of a lumpy, textured skin. Okay, so you don't want it all over, don't go mad. Next thing is the strawberry. I don't think I've done a strawberry before, but let's look. Again, we put our light on first, and the light is hitting down that central, isn't it? It's going down the middle there. And then we've got a kind of a pinky shade, more of a pinky shade this end. Ooh, that's not a very nice colour. Red, again, red I find is a difficult colour with pastel to get a nice strawberry red. Let's have a go. Not bad, but not brilliant. See what this is. Yeah, try this. Yeah, that's okay. So we'll try and get the outline in. I just thought it was nice with a little bit of a colour here. So we've got the red. We want a bit of darker red here. I'll try that bit of purpley colour. So you can see why you need, if you're going to work in pastel, you do need lots of different kinds of pastels, because each make has slightly different colours in, and some of them are just right and some of them are not right. Okay. Might even be a bit darker there. Might turn a bit that blue on, just to get that darker there. And again, strawberries that way, isn't it? You know, you want to get this roundness of it. So we're going to push the chalk across. Probably need a little finger. Bit more of that orangey red. It's gone a bit purpley, so I'm putting a bit more of the nice red on. We've got to put some texture on this, haven't we? Because it has quite a lot of texture. And I'm going to try that purpley colour and see. Yeah, that's not bad. Now, you've got to take some of that off with your finger because it's a bit spotty. Still not red enough, is it? What's that like? trying to give the effect of the story. A bit tricky. Right, I think we'll probably call it a day with that. I can sharpen that up when I put the background in. And you want this green leaf, which is kind of a dark. And then it has that very fine piece going up, doesn't it? That stalk. And you need an edge for that. There. Won't do any more to that because we'll spoil it. Saying that, you see, and I keep looking at it thinking, maybe if I darken that bit a bit more. This is what happens, you keep at things and at things, trying to get them better and better. Okay, so we've got our basic things in. When we think about the background, we just don't want to detract from the things which are here. So we need to look now, have a look, and look at the background. And I've purposely put that with some folds coming, just gentle folds, and a sort of tabletop, so that you're trying just to put something gentle so that the things that you've drawn come out, and you need to work on the shadows that come round things. And you can start to put your mistakes or where you've gone over things, you can put them right with the background. A fold, let's think about a fold. A fold goes, if we have a look at the folds, they go light as they come out, and then medium, and then dark as they go away from the light. So you're not going to get all those folds correct. You're just going to try and give an effect that there's gentle fabric behind. You don't want to take the point of the fold from here. If you look through your viewfinder that I said in the beginning, when you're deciding exactly what you're going to draw, obviously you'll have it that way and high, but you take your folds, they're not going to come from the top, but they're kind of going this way, aren't they? So we'll take our chalk and we'll kind of put some light. So this is just a general effect. So you're not sort of worrying too much. They're going to come in sort of a wider triangle, maybe, as they come down, and then you can get things right. So I'm just putting some light areas here and shapes there, and then we'll look for a very pale blue here, and we'll put some blue in. This is where you can be careful and, you know, go around things which you haven't got quite right, or you've gone over the edge, or because you're going to smudge it all in. come round that. Ooh. Get the edge to your lemon, put back. Side here. You might need to come back and put extra bits on, tidy up. But you can see how when you come to do the background, a bit tricky inside there, but then you kind of can correct things and get things a bit nicer and sharper. Oops, I've gone over the edge then. And then we need a bit darker. So I've just used the edge of the chalk, the edge of it. And then we need a little bit darker, but not going mad, because that would a bit similar. Wouldn't be quite right. Let's have a look. What is that like? Might do. Oh, no. Tricky. Maybe take a bit. Now this darker one you've got to be careful with, because you're just putting a few lines sort of here and there. And it's quite nice that I picked up that blue actually of the jug. Okay, so you can see that I haven't worried about it. I haven't tried to put in every fold correctly. I've just kept it very gentle with the side of the chalk. Then you've got to take your paper towel and scrunch it up so that you've got a little pad to work with. Now be careful, you don't want to go over your drawing. You're trying to keep your drawing sharp, so when you do it, you don't want to take all the colour off, but drag it down . But try and keep that nice sharp edge. You don't want a big line, so be careful going round things. Went a bit hasty there. Then I'm just smudging things in, dragging it upwards. So if I had more time, you would be a lot more careful and spend longer doing this, but it gives you the idea of what you can do, and you can take it so long as you like. So you get the idea that there's a gentle kind of background there, and it's coming down this way. Oops, I keep knocking that. But the next thing, we want this kind of feel that it's lying on a tabletop. I'm not doing the where it goes over the edge here. I'm just taking that as being a tabletop. Okay. So the same kind of thing. Just take your light. You're just trying to have a look at it and see, well, are there some folds or that we could put in here? As it goes back, you probably need it a little bit darker, so you put so that we know where that tabletop is, but again, not too severe. Try and get the things that you're trying to correct so you've got a nice edge. We're maybe going to have to go to a purpley blue for the dark background. So I'm looking now all around for a darker purpley kind of colour. That might do. I'm going to put some of the blue in. I'll go right up to that. I'm going to put some shadow and put up. I'll have to go up that end a bit. And then I'll get this darker, and with the darker I'm trying to give the idea of a shadow here, that they are lying on something. Look for the shapes, because you need to keep the shape nice. Back in. Bring the shadow out a little bit so it's not in a solid line around. There's a little dark purple shape in there. So you can see by the shadow in the background that we can put back nice edges to things. But keep your lines going that way this time, that way, and then it sets it on a table, on a platform. I'm even going to take something slightly darker. I don't use black a lot in pastel because it gets very messy. But where these shapes here, it's very dark, isn't it? So I'm going to have to just get those tiny few shapes, and they they will make a difference to the whole drawing, really. Right, and even that side of the orange, we've got like quite a dark shadow there. And along the bottom, I'll have to tip this a little bit, trying to keep away from the camera. Don't know where it is, but okay, tiny bit here. So we've tried to set it on a background. We're going to have to smudge that now. Again, rolled up paper and drag it across, you know, coming down, up and so on. Don't go near your shapes yet. Just do the general bits first, because you want to keep that nice sharpness. And I'll show you how to do it with a cotton bud. So your marks this time are going that way, aren't they? So that it lies right, we'd say it lies on the table. Now this is where your cotton buds can come in, where you've got something that you need to keep sharp. And you don't want to sort of smudge over the edge. You can use that to smudge things in, but then when you get it up to something, it's much easier not to go over an edge with it. Again, I'm trying to keep the shadows, can you see, coming out sideways on. That makes things lie nicely. Just a bit tricks of the trade, isn't it, using things like this. See, I'm always seeing things, aren't I, that I'm not happy with, but anyway, I've got to stop because I'm conscious that I could go on and on. Just putting that back in. Also, I've noticed that I haven't put this white line here. So you can go back now and you can sharpen things up that you feel you want to sharpen up. But I'll call it a day because otherwise I'll go on for hours. But you can see how you can enjoy doing a pastel. Just put lots of colour on before you do the actual smudging bit. Put lots of your colour on first and then drag it the way that you think you should by painting with your finger. And you can see that, whoops, I'll try and show you this at the end, that you can end up with something that is quite pleasing. You can do any kind of still life. You can do a bowl of fruit, different kinds of fruit. So there we are, still life with pastel. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you've enjoyed the lessons. They've kept me going through this difficult time that we've been having. And I hope you can go back and do some of them that you haven't done before. So bye for now.